Assalamu alaikum everyone. How are you? I hope you are all well by the grace of Almighty Allah. I am also very well by the grace of Almighty Allah. I am Mohammad Jasim Uddin, Assistant English Teacher, Kalkini Government Pilot High School, Kalkini Mother. Today we will learn about voice change. So today's topic is voice change for class 8. So at first we have to learn the definition of the voice. Actually, the voice means in Bengali bacho. Okay. So how many kinds of voice? You know that voice are two kinds. The number one is active voice and another is passive voice. So at first we will start with an example like I rise. It's an active voice, I rise. So how can change it into passive? So you have to take the object of the active voice as the subject of the passive, right? Rise maybe subject rise, thank you, and then you have to choose a auxiliary verb according to the tense and person. So you have to take a auxiliary verb according to the tense of the active voice. So what is the tense? I rise. You know it is a present indefinite tense. So what are the auxiliary verbs of present indefinite tense? You know the present indefinite tense auxiliary verbs are am, is, are. Am, is, are. So there are three auxiliary verbs for present indefinite tense, but we have to choose one. So for rise we have to choose is, because am is only for I and our other sector, but in this subject, in this sentence, the subject rise is singular and third person singular. For this we have to choose is as auxiliary verb. Then we have to choose the past participle form of the basic verb. So in this active voice, basic verb is it, and the past participle form of it is eaten. Then we have to choose a preposition, and preposition like by. We have to choose other preposition in another cases, but most of the cases we have to choose by as a preposition. Then we have to you have to use the subject of the active voice as a passive form of the passive voice. So like this we can change the voice. So let's get students. Now we have to show the basic rules of the voice. So at first we have to know the rule number one. At first you have to object change into subject plus you have to use the auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verb. Then you have to use the past participle form. Past participle. of the base form then you have to use by, and after that you have to use the subject form as object. So we have to use, we have to change words like this. So another example, they play football. We can also mention the extension of the sentence in the field like this. Now, my students, at first you have to find out the subject, verb and object of the sentence. So try to find out the subject. This is the subject of the sentence, okay, and verb, this is the verb of the sentence, then object football, and in the field is the extension of the sentence. So extension, no tension. At first you have to find out the object as a subject for the passive voice. So you have to write football as a subject, then you have to use a auxiliary verb for the passive voice. You know, they play football in the field is a present indefinite tense. So what are the auxiliary verb of this sentence? Actually, for present indefinite tense, auxiliary verbs are and is are. Already we have learned it. So for the football, we have to choose is. Then you have to use the base, use the past participle form of the base verb. So base verb is the play, and you have to written of the base past participle of the plate, and after that you have to use a preposition by, and at last you have to change the subject of the active voice as a passive form. So they is the subject of the active voice, and you have to use it as the passive form them, and finally you have to mention the extension of the sentence in the field like this. So my students, you are already know how to change a voice. So basically in rule 2 we are going to learn the auxiliary form of the other tenses. So let's go rule number 2. So rule number 2, for voice change we have to know the auxiliary verb according to the tense. For the present indefinite tense, indefinite tense, auxiliary verbs are am, is, are, and present continuous tense, the auxiliary verbs are am being, is being, are being. My dear students, then comes the present perfect tense. For the present perfect tense, the auxiliary verbs are have been and has been. So like this we have to write the another tenses. Said and then past indefinite. For past indefinite tenses, the auxiliary verb said was, were, and past continuous tense, auxiliary verbs were was, being, were, being. And then past perfect tense. The auxiliary verbs are had been, only had been. Dear students, like this, future indefinite, future indefinite tense, the auxiliary verbs are shall be, will be, and then future continuous tense, the auxiliary verbs are shall be, being, like this, will be, being. So accordingly, future perfect tense, the auxiliary verbs are shall, have been, and will have been. So you know that we have another three tenses like present perfect continuous, past perfect continuous, and future perfect continuous. Actually, those three kinds of tenses are voice tense not available. So according to the rule, now we are going to learn some examples. So let's write some example. The boys are playing cricket. My students, now at first you have to find the object of this sentence, because you have to use the object of the sentence as a subject. So what is the object? You know, the boys is the subject, are auxiliary verb, and playing the basic verb, and the cricket is object. So you have to use cricket as a subject. Then you have to use the auxiliary verb according to the tense. You know, this is the present continuous tense, because subject and then auxiliary verb are then base verb with ing. So it is present continuous tense. Then you know what are the auxiliary verb of present continuous tense for voice? You know, this is the am, being, is being, and are being. So cricket, for the subject as a cricket, you have to use is being, because cricket is a subject like third person singular. For this is being may be the auxiliary verb. Then you have to write the past participle form of the base verb like play, then played. After that, you have to use a preposition by, and finally you have to use the subject of the active voice as a passive form. So the voice object form is the voice, like this. So my dear students, we will learn another example, another sentence. The cat has killed the rats. So, dear students, at first you know that the cat is the subject, has auxiliary verb, killed, the past participle form of the killed verb, and the rats is the object. So at first you have to write the object as a subject for the passive voice. So the rats is the subject form. Then you have to write the auxiliary verb of the sentence. So this is the present perfect tense, and for the present perfect tense we have got two auxiliary verbs for voice change. The one is have been, the another is has been. So for the subject we have to write have been, because the rats actually third person but plural number, because there is a s. So the rats, the number is plural. So we have to use have been. Then you have to use the past participle form of killed, like killed. Actually, it is the past participle form of the kill. So then you have to use by. After that, we have to use the subject form of the active voice as a passive form for the passive voice. So the cat is used as an object for the passive voice. The rats have been killed by the cat. Like this. So my students, actually in this way you can change the voice tense for the assertive sentence. And if you want to change the another sentence like imperative or interrogative, you have to change the another way. In the passive voice, you have to change. Actually, we are going to mention another example. Dear students, A rule 3. Sometimes, my dear students, sometimes you may be two objects in the active voice. So, what type of objects you can use as a subject? So, in this category, in this field, actually, for the two objects, you have to use personal object as the subject of the passive voice. Like this, he teaches us English. We can mention extension here like very well. Actually, The base sentence is it says us English and very well is extension here. So my dear students, we have got two objects here. One is us, another is English. So two objects here. So what objects may be subject for the passive voice? You have to use it. According to the rules 3, we have to use as a personal object as a subject. So personal object us may be the subject for the passive voice. So what is the subject form of us? You know, the subject form of us is we. Then you have to use an auxiliary verb according to the tense. So my dear students, you know that he teaches us. It is a present indefinite tense, and for present indefinite tense we have got 3 auxiliary verbs for voice change like am, is, are. So for we have to use are as a auxiliary verb. Then you have to use the past participle form of the base verb like teaches. So that base verb teach of the past participle form is taught. Then you have to use the other objects like English. Then you have to use the preposition by, and after that we have to use the passive form of the object form of the subject like he, in this case him, and after that we have to mention the extension of the sentence very well like this. You can change the voice. Okay, my dear students, we have to another way, the other examples like my dear students, actually in rule 4 you have to get another types of example. Like that means it may be to you like a passive voice. Actually this is not passive voice, it is active voice. Rule for some sentences are seemed as passive, but they are not passive. In fact, they are quasi-passive. In this case, you have to change this like this. So let's example. The book is printing. So at a glance, you maybe think this is the passive voice. Actually, it is not passive, it is active voice, and this kind of active voice is called as a quasi-passive. And you have to change it like this. At first, you have to write the subject of the sentence. Then you have to use the auxiliary verb of the sentence. So, what type of tense of the sentence? Actually, subject after then is, and then ing with the base form of the verb. So it is a present continuous tense. For the present continuous tense, we have to get some auxiliary verbs for voice changes like am being, is being, are being. So for the book, we have to use is being as auxiliary verb, and then you have to use the past participle form of the base verb like paint. It is the base form, and you have to use the past participle form of it. That means you have to use ed. So it is the correct passive verb of the voice. The book is being printed. So my dear students, actually today we learn how to change the assertive sentence. The next classes we will learn how to change the interrogative sentence and imperative sentence. Thank you.